Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how you can create a calorie amortization schedule. And this is what the finished product is going to look like minus a few little formatting details. By the end of this video, you'll be able to calculate the weight you need to lose, the calories needed to maintain your current weight, as well as the calories needed to reach your weight goal, whether that be a weight gain or weight loss. And then it will amortize those calories needed daily to reach that goal based off your activity level. So basically a calorie amortization table is just useful when trying to lose or gain weight and understanding what it's going to take to get there. So again, this is the finished product. We're going to go step by step how you can create a calorie amortization schedule like this. But if you don't want to take the time of going through this long video, you can find this exact template on my Etsy shop for a very affordable price. And before we get going on this video, that the Mifflin-St Jeor equation is used in creating this amortization schedule. With all that being said, let's dive into it. All right, so the version we're going to create is going to look very basic. It's not going to be formatted as much as the finished product you just saw, but all the math is going to be done the same. In order to create a calorie amortization table, you need to know a couple of key details. First thing, you need to know the gender. You're going to need to know your age, height, your activity level on a general basis, because obviously you're going to burn more calories each day if you're working out every day versus if you only work out once a week. And then we'll just go over here. You also need to know your current weight and then the goal weight, so where you want to be, which will then tell you the weight you need to lose or gain. And then you need to determine how much you want to lose every week, whether that's 1 pound, 3 pounds, or 4 pounds. And for this example, we're just going to put everything in the imperial system. So that's going to be pounds, feet, and inches. So then based off this information and doing some math, we can then determine the calories needed to maintain our current weight, the calories needed to then reach your weight goal, and which then can easily calculate the daily calorie deficit or surplus that you need. And then we're going to want to know our start date, so the day we start this diet or implementation of this calorie amortization table, which ultimately this amortization table will then help us determine our completion date, the date at which we can reach our weight loss goal, and then we can then calculate how many days that really will take. All right, so that's a lot right now, but we're going to go step by step and go through it, and then we can create our loan amortization table. So then our amortization table is going to have our date. Then we can, say what day that is, if that's the first day, second day, or third day we're starting this, our weight at the beginning of that day, the calories we need to consume for that day, and the calories we burned for that day, which then gives us our calorie deficit or surplus, then determining our weight. And then that'll help us determine the total weight we've lost and the weight remaining or pounds remaining we have to lose. All right, so that is a lot. So we're just kind of getting everything set up right now so we know exactly what we need in order to achieve these goals. And we'll kind of adjust these columns real quick here. So for this example, we can just assume that we are a male in this instance. If you're a female, you can select that as well. The formula will kind of go through the differences. And let's just say we're 30 years old, and let's say we are 5 feet 10 inches. So then we can do 5, and in this column we'll do inches. So we're doing 5 foot 10 inches there. And obviously afterwards or during, you can format this more correctly. You could put feet here and then make this column inches and then make it so it's well known. So then here there are 5 different activity levels that you can put. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to data validation, and I'm going to create a list so that you have to select between one of 5 different activity levels. And I copy and pasted this from the finished dashboard, so I don't have to retype everything, but I'm going to go hit and paste that here, hit OK, and then I can show you here. So here are the 5 different activity levels. You have sedentary, which is essentially little or no exercise, light activity, which is exercise 1 to 3 days a week, moderate activity 3 to 5 days a week, an active level, which means that you are exercising 6 to 7 days a week, And then very active is where you're doing more intense exercise 6 to 7 days every week. So select whatever best applies to you or for whoever you're creating this for. In this example, let's just say that we're moderately active, and we're actually going to merge these columns to make it look a little bit better, and then we're going to input them here. So we just merge these columns. Let's say our current weight, let's say we are 185 pounds. And let's say that we are looking to lose a little bit of weight and we want to be at 175. So essentially we want to lose 10 pounds. Now we could manually type that there, or we could just subtract our current weight from our goal weight, right? But we need to do a specific formula to make sure that this number is always positive. The reason being is that if our current weight is 185 and we want to get our weight to 200, so instead we want to gain weight instead of lose weight, then that would be a negative or a positive number, right? We just want it to be positive so we know how much weight we need to lose or gain. So we'll just do a quick if statement. We'll say if our current weight subtracted from our goal weight is greater than 0, then we want to do our current weight minus our goal weight. But if that is less than 0, so if that's false, then we're going to want to do our goal weight minus our current weight. So that way this will always be positive. So if we change this to 200, that'll stay positive rather than a negative. So then we need to determine how much weight we want to lose every single week. Now it's recommended by most experts that you don't lose more than 1 pound every week. So we're just going to put 1 pound in this category. Our start date is today, so we can then determine our completion date. So we're going to use a round up function here. We're going to use a round up function, and we're going to take our current date, and then we're going to do plus parentheses how much weight we want to lose or gain, and we're going to divide that by then parentheses how much weight we want to lose every week divided by 7. So that's going to give us the daily weight we need to lose, and parenthesis, and then we'll do comma to the 0 digit. Go ahead and hit enter, and then we can just format this as a date. We can then do our completion date subtracted from our start date, and that will give us the total amount of days it's going to take for us to reach our goal of losing 10 pounds, 1 pound every week. All right, then we're going to go ahead and actually merge these as well, just like we did before. Go ahead and merge those. These are all just one cell instead of 2. All right, and this is where the tricky formulas come in. Calculating the calories needed to maintain your current weight and the calories needed to reach your goal. Because you need to take into account your weight, your age, height, and your activity level, as well as your gender, and that's going to give you estimated amount for these two things. All right, so this is going to be a pretty long, complicated formula, but don't get too overwhelmed and just follow along best you can. So we're going to go ahead and do equals parentheses. We'll then do an if statement. And we're going to work with gender first. So we'll select this cell. If that cell equals male, and just trust me on the equations for these. This is based off the Mifflin-St Jeor equation, like I mentioned in the beginning. So these numbers are going to be hard-coded, which you generally shouldn't do in Excel problems. But these numbers aren't going to change, and they're going to stay very constant according to this equation. We're going to do 5 plus parenthesis. We're going to want to take our current weight divided by 2.2 in order to get that into kilograms. And we're actually going to want to do a double parenthesis here. And they're going to want to times that by 10. So we'll then do plus parenthesis. We'll actually want to do a double parenthesis here. 6.25 times parenthesis, the feet times 12, and that's going to get us into total inches, right? Plus the remaining inches. So that's going to give us 5 times 12, which is going to give us 60 inches plus 10, which is 70 total inches for someone that's 5'10". So if you're using the metric system, you don't need to divide by 2.2 here, and you don't need to get this unit into inches, or divide by the following. So add a parenthesis there, and so what you also need to divide by now, and we're actually going to add 2 more parentheses there, my apologies, and we're going to divide that by 0.3937 in order to get that into the metric system. And then we'll close that parenthesis minus our age times 5. We're going to do a comma, and so this is if this is female, so essentially if this is false, so if you put female here, then these are the calculations that you need to do. You're going to do parenthesis, parenthesis, again going to your current weight time or divided by 2.2 to put in the metric system, and times that by 10, and parenthesis, plus 2 parentheses there, 6.25 times, and we'll do a couple of parentheses here, our height times 12 to get into inches, plus the remaining inches, and parenthesis, divided by 0.3937, those parentheses. And then you're going to want to do minus parenthesis your age times 5, and then finally minus 161. All right, so that has this if statement is now finally completed. But now we need to include our activity level as well. And we need to account for all 5 different activity levels based on what you select. So we're then going to want to multiply all of that we just did and do another if statement. So if this cell where we select our activity level equals, and we'll just start with the first one, sedentary, and we have to follow it exactly how we typed it in at this column. So if you created a list into data validation, it needs to be exactly here so that when you find that, it's going to display the same. So if that is, and we added a little parentheses, little or no exercise. So you might want to write these down beforehand, and parentheses, and then you have to do in quotes of what it's being read. So if that's little to no exercise, we're going to want to multiply all of what we just did by 1.2. But if that's false, we're going to want to do another if statement. We're going to want to do click on C5. If that equals, and then we'll go to our next level, which would be lightly active, parentheses, exercise 1 to 3 days per week. Then we want to multiply all of that by 1.375. So you kind of see what we're going for. So we've gotten 2 of the 5 activity levels taken care of. So then we need to repeat the formula. So C5 equals, and I believe this one was moderately active, exercise 3 to 5 days per week. Then that will be 1.55. And then if that equals, so this is the 4th one now, which is just being active, exercise 6 to 7 days per week. Then we're going to want to do 1.725. So now that we only have one remaining, which is the extremely active, I believe is how we labeled it, we don't need to have it search for that because it's the only one remaining. So if it's searching and it's not lightly active, it's not moderately active, it's not sedentary, and it's not active, then it has to be extremely active. And then we're just going to do comma and then times that by 1.9 if it's extremely active. Then we'll hit enter, and there's an error somewhere. Oh, it looks like we didn't do an if statement here, so we'll do an if statement there. And now we should be able to hit enter. All right, so we determined that in order to maintain our current weight at 185 pounds, being moderately active, according to our gender, age, and height, we need to consume 2,801 calories. And so if you manipulate our activity levels, say we start to become very active, then it's going to increase the calories we need to maintain. All right, so if you haven't given up after that, give yourself a round of applause because that was a pretty long, complicated formula. The rest of the formulas, I promise you, are not as difficult, and the rest is going to breeze by. All right, so in order to calculate calories needed to reach your goal, you need to understand that it's estimated that about 1 pound equals 3,500 calories. So the formula we're going to use here is another if statement. So we'll say if our current weight minus our goal weight is greater than 0, then we're going to want to do the calories needed to maintain our current weight subtracted from parentheses the weight we needed to lose or gain times 3,500 divided by parentheses our completion date minus our start date and parentheses, comma. So if that is false, then we're going to want to do that plus parentheses, the weight we need to gain or lose times 3,500 divided by the same thing, our completion date minus our start date, end parentheses. Then we'll hit enter and yes, and that is going to give us the calories we need each day in order to reach our goal. So in order to lose 1 pound every week, we need to eat 2,301 calories every day, which would essentially be a calorie deficit. So we'll then do another if statement here to find our calorie deficit or surplus. And so again, like the weight we needed to gain or lose, we're just going to use this same formula essentially. So that way this is always going to be positive, whether it's a deficit or surplus. All right, so we're going to do if our current minus the calories we need to maintain to be the same weight minus our goal calories to consume is greater than 0. Then we'll do that minus that. But if that's false, then we'll do that minus that. Hit enter. So we essentially need a calorie deficit of 500 calories every day in order to reach our goal. All right, so that's all the super complicated math, right? Now, in order for it to be verified and for it to make sense, you can create this amortization table that's going to do all the work for you, similar to like a loan amortization table. I have a video on that if you're interested in learning how to do that as well. That's a lot more simple than this though. All right, so essentially we want the date to be the start date, and then basically we want all of this to end on May 29th, 2023. So in 70 days. In order to do that, in order for it to stop at May 29th, we can do an if error, and then we'll do if this date equals our completion date, and we're going to lock that FNF4 or just $2 signs, then we're going to want to do blank. So quote, quote. If that's not true, then we'll just want it to display that plus 1. So I'll just add a day. And then if error, we'll just want it to be blank as well. Go ahead and hit enter, and then we'll turn this into a short date, and we can drag this down, and we can see that it's going to stop at May 29th, and then leave the rest of the columns blank. And so that will automatically update if the total days increases. If you're starting on a different day, it's just going to use this start date or whatever date you put in here. And this will just be day 1. So what you could do is just enter 1, 2, and then drag this down and drag this down. However, if this date increases, then this isn't going to automatically update. So you can also do a formula here as well. And you'll essentially do if and if error formula as well. And then an if formula. And then you're going to want to know is a number formula. For the cell next to it, which would be B14, if that is true, then take the previous plus 1. And if it's false, just leave it blank. And if it's an error, blank as well. And then we can drag that down, and that's going to work accordingly, right? So even if this formula is here, it's going to be blank unless we add, for example, if we add another day here, then it's going to update. All right, so our weight is then going to be our current weight, our starting weight. All right, so essentially we want this number to be going down. So we can do another, and so we're going to follow the same formula. We're going to do an if error, so it automatically stops for us and updates automatically. If, and then is number, that is number, equals true. Then if that minus that is greater than 0, then we're going to want to do our weight that we started at locked minus our weight loss, which we'll calculate later. And if that's false, then we're going to want to do our weight locked plus the weight loss or weight gain. So technically this should be weight loss or weight gain. End parentheses, and if there's an error, we want it to be blank. And then we'll also have to lock these as well. Go ahead and hit enter, drag that down. That's going to be 85 for now until we do this column. And we're on to calories consumed. So essentially we just want it to display this, but we want to do that same if error formula so that it automatically updates and stops for us when the parameters change. Is number We'll just do this one equals true. Then we want it to display that. If not, blank. And if there, we will have to lock that and drag that down. And essentially we're going to do the same thing for calories burned, because that's going to be the same. Error. If there is number that equals true, then we're going to want it to display this, lock that, and quote, quote. And we can drag that down. And you can see that that's just going to automatically stop there. If our completion date increases to, let's say, June 3rd, then that will update accordingly. So essentially for a calorie deficit or surplus, we just wanted to display that. So we can do the same formula. And what we can do is we can just drag this across, and instead, and then we can switch this back to there, and this number being displayed is actually going to be that, and hit enter, and then drag that down. And we're down to the final two categories, almost done. If you stuck with it this far, I'm honestly impressed. I'm impressed that you didn't just go out and buy the template. Instead, you decided to learn how to do it yourself. Very impressive. And we're just going to drag this across as well. Change this to, we're going to take the calorie deficit or surplus, divide that by 3,500, and then we'll hit enter. And we can drag that down. Since we're technically not losing any weight on the first day, we're actually just going to enter 0 there, and open this. So we're going to lose that much weight the first day, and this is just going to accumulate. So it's not going to be 0.14, 0.14, 0.14. It'll be 0.28, and so on, right? So we need to upgrade the formula at this location, so we can drag that down, but then we just need to change this a little bit. And the only difference is we're going to add parentheses here, and then we will just simply add the previous weight. So then at the very end, it should be exactly 10. One column remaining. Almost there. And we'll copy that, and so it should be 0 pounds remaining as well. And this should equal the weight we needed to lose or remaining. And then we'll copy this formula over, and we're just going to change this part. And essentially that formula is going to be our pounds remaining, locked, subtract that day's weight, that day's weight loss, and hit enter, and then go down, and that should be 0 if we did it correctly at the very end. So there's your amortization table. This kind of verifies all that information for you, showing you how long it's going to take to complete that weight loss or weight gain journey. All right, so then obviously you can format this and make this look a lot prettier. I have a template that is a little bit easier to use, doesn't make you go through all that work to set it up. And then you can easily switch between the metric system or imperial system. So go check that out if you're interested. I appreciate you staying till the end watching this video. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.